Ishmael Chapter 8, Sections 7 and 8. As you see, I left a book beside your chair, Ishmael said. It was the American Heritage Book of Indians. While we're on or near the subject of population control, there's a map of tribal locations there in front of you that you may find illuminating. After I'd studied it for a minute, he asked me what I made of it. I didn't realize there were so many different peoples. Not all of them were there at the time, but most of them were. What I'd like you to think about is what served to limit their growth. How is the map supposed to help? I wanted you to see that this was far from an empty continent. Population control wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. Okay, any ideas? You mean from looking at the map? No, I'm afraid not. Tell me this. What do the people of your culture do if they get tired of living in the crowded Northeast? That's easy. They move to Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, the wide open spaces. And how do the takers in the wide open spaces like that? They don't. They put bumper stickers on their cars that say, if you love New Mexico, go back where you came from. But they don't go back. No, they just keep coming. Why can't the takers of these areas stem the flood? Why can't they limit the population growth of the Northeast? I don't know. I don't see how they could. So what you have is a gushing wellspring of growth in one part of the country that no one bothers to turn off because the excess can always flow into the wide open spaces of the West. That's right. Yet each of these states has a boundary. Why don't those boundaries keep them out? Because they're just imaginary lines. Exactly. All you have to do is transform yourself into an Arizonan. All you have to do to transform yourself into an Arizonan is cross that imaginary line and settle down. But the point to note is that around each of the lever peoples on that map was a boundary that was definitely not imaginary, a cultural boundary. If the Navajo started feeling crowded, they couldn't say to themselves, well, the Hopi have a lot of wide open space. Let's go over there and be a Hopi. Such a thing would have been unthinkable to them. In short, New Yorkers can solve their population problems by becoming Arizonans, but the Navajo couldn't solve their population problems by becoming Hopi. Those cultural boundaries were boundaries that no one crossed by choice. True, on the other hand, the Navajo could cross the Hopi's territorial boundary without crossing their cultural boundary. You mean they could invade Hopi territory? Yes, absolutely. But the point I'm making still stands. If you crossed over into Hopi territory, they didn't give you a form to fill out. They killed you. That worked very well. That gave people a powerful incentive to limit their growth. Yes, there is that. These were not people limiting their growth for the benefit of mankind or for the benefit of the environment. They limited their growth because, for the most part, it was easier than going to war with their neighbors. And of course, there were some who made no great effort to limit their growth because they had no qualms about going to war with their neighbors. I don't mean to suggest that this was the peaceable kingdom of a utopian dream. In a world where no big brother monitors everyone's behavior and guarantees everyone's property rights, it works well to have a reputation for fearlessness and ferocity. And you don't acquire such a reputation by sending your neighbors curt notes. You want them to know exactly what they'll be in for if they don't limit their growth and stay in their own territory. Yes, I see, they limited each other. But not just by erecting uncrossable territorial boundaries, their cultural boundaries had to be uncrossable too. The excess population of the Narragansett couldn't just pack up and move out to west to be Cheyenne. The Narragansett had to stay where they were and limit their population. Yes, it's another case where diversity seems to work better than homogeneity. A week ago, Ishmael said, when we were talking about laws, you said that there's only one kind of law about how people should live, the kind that can be changed by a vote. What do you think now? Can the laws that govern competition in the community be changed by a vote? No. But they're not absolutes, like the laws of aerodynamics. They can be broken. Can't the laws of aerodynamics be broken? No, if your plane isn't built according to the law, it doesn't fly. But if you push it off a cliff, it stays in the air, doesn't it? For a while. The same is true of a civilization that isn't built in accordance with the law of limited competition. It stays in the air for a while, and then it comes down with a crash. Isn't that what the people of your culture are facing here? A crash? Yes. I'll ask the question another way. Are you certain that any species that, as a matter of policy, exempts itself from the law of limited competition will end by destroying the community to support its own expansion? Yes. Then what have we discovered here? We've discovered a piece of certain knowledge about how people ought to live, must live, in fact. Knowledge that a week ago you said was unobtainable. Yes, but... Yes. I don't see how... Hold on for a minute. Take your time. I don't see how to make this a source of knowledge in general. I don't see any way to apply this knowledge in a general way to other issues. Do the laws of aerodynamics show you how to repair damaged genes? No. Then what good are they? They're good they enable us to fly. The law we've outlined here enables species to live, enables species to survive, including the human. It won't tell you whether mood-altering drugs should be legalized or not. It won't tell you whether premarital sex is good or bad. It won't tell you whether capital punishment is right or wrong. It will tell you how you have to live if you want to avoid extinction. And that's the first and most fundamental knowledge anyone needs. True. All the same, yes. All the same, the people of my culture will not accept it. You mean the people of your culture will not accept what you've learned here? That's right. Let's be clear about what they will and will not accept. The law itself is beyond argument. It's there plainly in place in the community of life. What the takers will deny is that it applies to mankind. That's right. That hardly comes as a surprise. Mother Culture could accept the fact that mankind's home is not the center of the universe. She could accept the fact that man evolved from the common slime, but she will never accept the fact that man is not exempt from the peacekeeping law of the community of life. To accept that would finish her off. So what are you saying? That it's hopeless? Not at all. Mother Culture must be finished off if we're going to survive. And that's something that people of your culture can do. She has no existence outside your minds. Once you stop listening to her, she ceases to exist. True, but I don't think people will let that happen. Ishmael shrugged. Then the law will do it for them. If they refuse to live under the law, then they simply won't live. You might say that this is one of the law's basic operations. Those who threaten the stability of the community by defying the law automatically eliminate themselves. The takers will never accept that. Acceptance has nothing to do with it. You may as well talk about a man stepping off of the edge of a cliff and not accepting the effects of gravity. The takers are in the process of eliminating themselves, and when they've done so, the stability of the community will be restored and the damage you've done can begin to be repaired. True. On the other hand, I think you're being unreasonably pessimistic about this. I think there are a lot of people out there who know the jig is up and they are ready to hear something new, who want to hear something new, just like you. I hope you're right.